Welcome to the Source Weekly's election coverage. We are here with school board candidate Marcus LeGrand. Marcus, thank you for joining us today.
No worries, no worries.
Great to have you. If you could, for the viewers and listeners, maybe introduce yourself and say why you're running for the position.
No worries. Hi, my name is Marcus LeGrand, and I am the college and career success coach at Central Oregon Community College. And the reason I think everyone always asks me this question, why are you running? I said, I think I'm running because I was looking at a lot of the disparities that was happening in our schools in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. For a number of years, I've been attending meetings and talking to various people and what was going on. And then through my work with the Fathers Group, it's a nonprofit here in town, we were noticing as fathers, our kids were going through a lot of, how you want to say, discriminatory acts being waged against them when they were in schools. So we were getting together as a support group. So we decided to, hey, let's get together to figure out a way we can help. So we started a nonprofit for that reason. But one of the main reasons I'm doing this is that I have two school-age children who are getting ready to grow up in the system, and I want to make sure that the pathway and the ability to be able to have an academic future with equity and targeted learning is at stake. That's why I chose to do it. But ultimately, I think the most reason I really ran is that I want to create a supportive, safe, and an inclusive environment where students can thrive and do what's necessary to be successful.
Thanks, Marcus. So this might be a repeat and some of the questions might overlap, but what is your biggest concern for students of the district overall?
Coming back after this pandemic, after coming back April 12th, we know that students have been isolated and they have missed on a lot of connections with their families, with their peers and their teachers, and just being able to activate in activities. My biggest concern is that they're not going to have the mental health support that they deserve. Luckily, the district is starting to look at ways to maybe hire more people to do that, which is I applaud them for doing. I found this information out a few weeks ago that they're looking to hire at least, I think, a few people for each school to be able to come and be able to have that mental health capacity to be able to get through things. The reason I say this, I watch my own son who's 9 years old, who struggles with this right now, having not being connected with his peers. He has really either went into a shell or he lashed out. So I really hope these students are getting support when they come back.
Marcus, what do you think makes a school board member? What are those, what are those responsibilities and characteristics?
For me, I think the most responsibility for me as a school board member is to really build proactive relationships with the general public and shareholders of public education. I think sometimes this supersedes the board relationship with everyone else. Plus, I think we're tasked also to bring diversity or diverse ideas into the system. And I think me, with the special knowledge I have for being here at the college, also working in high schools, also working with students who have struggled and who need a little bit of help with more resilience, working with staff and other community partners to make comprehensive decisions, I think is the critical thing that the role of the board member needs.
Great. So I believe this has not passed the legislature yet, but I will have to check on that because things are changing every day. However, I believe it will pass. The legislature has talked about passing a bill, and it already passed the Senate, to allow local governments the option to ban people with concealed carry permits from bringing firearms into public buildings. Should all of the schools and the district office of the Ben Lapine School District be gun-free zones, with anyone who has a concealed weapon permit being required to check their gun at the door?
As I read more about this bill, it's one of those things for me where the bill is primarily for me is about safety. And I think for me as a father to educator, even ex-military, my responsibility is pretty much to keep those people safe from harm. Plus, if you look at it from a common sense standpoint, do we truly believe that public agencies would ever consider having the willingness to accept the moral, ethical, or even liability challenge that will arise if an armed patron wounds a student, a staff member, or a visitor through an accidental discharge of a weapon? And for me, I can't see having guns in school unless it's pretty much the resource officer. So that's how I feel about it. Because I don't think I could. I don't like that idea, especially with all the mass shootings that we've had throughout this country, and a lot of the mass shootings have been targeted towards students of color and people of color. And I can't foster what that would feel like if a person did something like that to not only my kid but to any student in the Billings Pine School District. So no, I don't want concealed weapons in schools.
Also, the legislature this week is allocating $250 million for summer programs to help students catch up. You mentioned that a little bit earlier with
Mhm.
kids, and gain enrichment following a year of online instruction. How do you think that funding should be used in the district? What's the best use of that money?
Well, like I said, we always talking about gaps and what that looks like, and students not being able to be connected. Students need the educational funds and support they're going to need. They've been gone for a year and now in some change to be able to come back in schools. I think what they're trying to do with these resources is try to provide a safe space for these students to come back, catch up, feel comfortable, know where they're at, and not make it where it's like, hey, it's very tedious. You got to get all these things done. Where I don't think you're going to have a lot of students interact, but it's going to give them ability to be able to have programming that's going to be beneficial to them here when we start back to school fully in the fall. Totally. I know we're starting back on the 12th, but when I say we're going to fully roll out in the fall, I think these students need to be ready to be prepared for what's going to come, because if students have lost a lot of academic work for the past year, catching up and seeing where they're at and then figuring out how we can definitely make sure that they're on track is definitely beneficial. Also, I think the funds are going to be used also, hopefully, like I said, to hire more people, plan how we can reopen, plan to educate the many people we're going to about how to remain safe and how to continue to just be educated while we're still dealing with this pandemic. Because think about it, only 20% of the whole country has been vaccinated. So think about it, we have a long way to go when it comes to dealing with a lot of other things. So I think this is a good start for using the funds. And as you know, I sit on the budgeting committee and I get to hear a lot of these conversations. And the thing is that we're looking at what we lost too, because we lost a lot of money from the Student Success Act, that we didn't get those money that was earmarked for us. We lost the ability to be able to hire other people to be able to come and help too. So we have to look at maybe shoring up what the district needs first with some of these funds also. So you got to understand there's a lot of different things that's going to be able to pull up these funds. So I think it's just a good start of being able to start with the summer programming.
Well, you brought up the pandemic. Obviously, this is a big thing on everyone's minds and continues to be. What's your overall impression of how the district has handled the pandemic, and what would you have done differently if you had been on the school board at that time?
I think just like anybody else, I would, go with the experts when it comes to science about what this pandemic does and how it's, relatable to the people here in our community to keep them safe. I don't think I would do anything differently because I don't know how much knowledge I would have to be able to bring anything to say, hey, here's what I do know. Having a wife who is in the medical field and listening to what she has to do in terms of her protocols to be able to work with patients every single day tells me a lot about what we don't know as people. So I think I would have brought that expertise, if anything, to the board. The pandemic is tough because think about it. We have never had to go through this in our lifetimes. So it was probably really hard for our current board, as well as the governor and so many other different people in the state, to be able to regulate what people can and cannot do. I think where the fault goes, and I'm not trying to be political in any sense, I think our leadership from a national level, I think did not do a great job in the beginning of trying to exercise the ability to be able to get information out to people. But hopefully we can look at where we went wrong to make a better path for how we can definitely make decisions in the future. So, like I said, it's like I wouldn't do anything different. I would just do like anyone else, gather the information, do the research, do everything necessary to make the proper decision. I know everybody wants kids back in school. Well, here's my thing. If you're that person who's saying that, I want you to go sit in that board seat, go sit in that superintendent seat, sit in that governor's seat, and tell me what decision you would have made. It's hard. It's hard to say. So, yeah, it's about what I would do differently. I just want everyone to be safe.
Right.
I guess I have just a little follow-up to that, because this has been such a such a obviously a contentious issue for so many families in the district. Do you think that the district is at an appropriate level of safety now that our students are mostly back in school at this point?
I think so, because think about it. I think they did a smart thing by making sure that all the teachers were vaccinated first, because we know there was the ones who are going to be engaging with our students. Next, I know they went to elderly, to be able to work with them, because I know there's a lot of their grandparents and so on. And I think they're doing a great job of rolling this out to get everyone vaccinated to be able to be informed about what's going on. If I had a crystal ball, I would have loved to been able to see, hey, based on decisions we have made so far, I think it's going to be beneficial for us in the long run to know more if we ever have to go through something like this again. But here's the thing, the pandemic is not over. There's different strands out there. We know that. We know everyone's not vaccinated yet. So my thing is let's get everybody vaccinated, let's get everybody where they need to be, and continue to take slow and methodical steps to make sure that we're keeping people safe, coming back. That's the main thing. I don't want anyone to perish, because I've lost 2 friends from this, and I've had several family members be sick. So I really want us to be very, very, not say cautious, but be very mindful and do the work to make sure we get the right information.
Great. Marcus, the past year has brought increased attention to the needs of people and students of color. What, if any, changes would you make or propose in the district to better meet the needs of those students?
For me, just continue the work that the district is currently doing right now. A lot of people don't know this, and this is where I think it'll be, me being on the board will be great, because I can push the needle to be able to advertise these things more. The district right now is currently trying to hire more people to be able to work in diversity and inclusion. They hired a new HR person for recruit. They got a curriculum director who's Latino, who could basically show us a different perspective on how you engage with students of color. Hopefully with the money that we get from this next act, we can hire that diversity and inclusion director to work with the district. You've actually also put in things in place for the new superintendent who's coming in to be able to do the DEI work. And also the board has parameters now that they have to do DEI work. Also in conjunction, they have the lead teacher cohort who's reached out to the fathers group as well as RJE to start looking at trying to find ways to engage with teachers to help them to be able to create more restorative practices within the school. There's the equity cadre that they have also. Also, they have the coalition that's coming, that's going to be made up of parents, community members, and students to be able to bounce decisions also as a board as well. So there's so many different things that they're doing to be able to engage with when it comes to students of color. But don't stop there. This is only the beginning, because the thing I don't want people to get caught up in is that, oh, we hired this person of color, oh, we chose to do this. No, we still got to continue to keep pushing diversity of thought to make sure those voices are heard. And at the same time, too, making sure we're making proper decisions that's going to benefit not only those students, but all students.
So you just listed off a number of things that I think some people are aware of in the district. How can the board, a board member, I guess, someone in your desired role, better communicate that stuff to the families? I'm not sure that every family is aware of all those activities that are going on.
I know that's the toughest part, is communication, is trying to figure out exactly what we have currently in place. And that's something I definitely have on my plate, to look at how are we distributing information to communicate to families what's going on, because I want to make sure that information gets out to them. So what I normally do is go through my community channels just to get the current information that I do learn and send it out to people. Like I said, when I was in college, we used to call it the Noop network. So you find out something from one fraternity and you tell the next. Same concept. Let's start, using, word of mouth as well as any communication or social media means we can to get information out. Also, I know everyone doesn't read emails. If we got to continue to send stuff through newsletters, if we need to have forums within schools to be able to get this information out so we can continue to do surveys to gauge what is going on, any means necessary to get information out to people, but the right information, not just any information. So people know how to engage, but at the same time, make decisions for their families. So that's what I would definitely work on. It's on my list.
Great. So the school board is responsible for setting policy for the district, as you know. What, if any, policies would you want to revisit or adopt if you were elected?
Right now, like I said, besides the one with the bill, which, like you said, is already passed the Senate, I would definitely want to look at changing that the gun or weapon one that they have currently for the Benton Pine School District. Right now, it's just geared towards students. As soon as that comes, we want to be able to amp and change that. One of the other policies I want to look at is how are we making decisions? I think we want to definitely make sure that we look at that as a policy. Other than that, and because I don't know what some of the other candidates or right now what currently is coming down the pipe in terms of working with the board, what policies they're looking at, I would definitely engage with my fellow board members to see what other policies they're looking at, to see if there's something that I've definitely ever want to support. Well as try to figure out exactly as something I go, hey, I may not want to support that, but I understand why are you doing it, and definitely let people at least know what it is so I can give them the proper information. But there's a couple things I'm looking at, but like anything else, I will definitely be reviewing even more of the policies to figure out exactly if something from a equitable lens or a diversity lens I want to look at to see if the wording is proper in some of those policies too. That would be something I'm definitely going to look at as well, because we want to make sure that the wording is there to support the work that we are currently doing, and so forth and so on.
Marcus, the impact of social media on people who are serving in public space or in political office these days is immense. The toxic aspect of it and the impact that it has on candidates has caused several local candidates to state they don't want to run again. And it's been especially toxic in the realm of the school board and school teachers and that whole conversation. How much of that has gone into your contemplation of what it means to serve, and what is your approach to dealing with social media? How do you exist in that sphere?
Are you asking social media for students, or are you asking social media for running for
Social media
office?
for you as a candidate and also as a person who may eventually serve.
For me, I really don't pay attention to social media for the most part, because, I don't go, I look at it like this. I'm not going to go back and forth words with you for something you've not done work or I have not know the full content or the situation. I try to stay away from it. I don't have time for it. I got work to do. I'm trying to make changes for students and their families. I'm trying to make sure the district is strong when it comes to diversity and inclusion. I'm serious. I don't have any time for that social media stuff. If somebody comes up or brings the information to me, what I try to do is I go, okay, whatever. That's their choice to be able to put that information up. I don't really engage. I don't, like, if I do see something, I'll look at it and I may delete it. Personally, I don't even want my social media pages. This is to be really truthful with you. I could do without it, but it happens, and it's unfortunate that people have to take the barrage of these things when they're just trying to do work. That's the main thing. Let us do the work. If we're doing a good job, tell us we do it. We're doing a bad job. It's not a bad job. Just come with constructive things and solutions to help us move forward. You can complain all you want, but my always question is this, and I always quote this. It's a gentleman by the name of Joe Madison. He has a Sirius XM network show, and he always says it's the people who call in and complain. What do you want to do about it? If you're going to complain, you can complain, but what do you want to do about it? If you come with solutions and you want to do the work with me, let's go. But if you say that and then don't want to do the work, so why did you take the time to go this far to be even engaged? So I don't deal with it because I don't think it's worth it.
Do you think you'll be able to continue to keep that approach even when you're serving as a school board member? I mean, there's a lot of communication that goes on in that realm.
Yeah, I don't do it now, so why should I do it then? I'm serious. I don't engage. I don't have time.
Good luck on that front.
Yeah, it is what it. I'm serious. I really, really do a good job of deflecting it. I'm like, I don't care. Like, let's go. I got work to do. I mean, I'd rather do that and spend time with my family. I really don't. Yeah, it's about. I'm serious. It's like 1% of my brain to even care. That's how I'm built. Like.
So moving on. As you mentioned, obviously, Benton Pine Schools just recently hired a new superintendent who will start at the end of the school year. Did the school board make the right call in who they hired? And secondly, what would be your approach in steering the district's leader in the right direction?
I can't really comment if it's the right hire or not. I just got to work with what I have. If he's the superintendent, that's who he is. Okay, let's go. All right, so now that you're here, let's do the work. Okay, here's our concerns. Let's go. Because we understand that, working with a new superintendent and he's transitioning, back after this pandemic. But I think as a board, we have to understand that superintendent is only one person. The board instructs, and the only person, and we also evaluate that person. Hopefully, he can understand that his authority to use reasonable interpretations of instruction the board gives him is going to be the requirement for make us do anything. That's it. I just want him to do the work and listen and engage and try to make proper decisions, if it's going to benefit the whole. That's it. That's the person we have. Guess what? That's the person I got to work with. So let's go.
What would you do if you find out that the person isn't listening, since they do effectively answer to you?
If they're not listening, do like anything else. I say, hey, you know what? We brought this to your attention several times. We don't feel that you're not doing what you need to do. Hey, ding them just like I would ding if I was at a job. If I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, guess what? If it's going to go in my performance review, it goes in. Guess what? Look at the information and go from there. Then if they're still not doing it, do what we always do. Hey, next, let's go. If you want to do the work and you say you want to be a part of this, do it. If you're not, let's be steadfast and hold them accountable for it. And then if that still doesn't happen, hey, let's go. Next superintendent, let's move on.
What is your opinion on the district's policy around sex education for students?
Sex education is needed. I mean, it's more than just sex education. I think people understand that, sex ed is a broad range of different things. It's primarily about a lifelong process linked to basically just being a good human or basic human needs. And I think sometimes we forget that for human needs, we need to have friendships, relationships, feel valued, love, so forth and so on. And if people can get past the sex part and concentrate on the human connection aspect, then we can equip our students or young adults with the knowledge they need to be able to be successful. And most of all, I just want them empowered to realize that their health and their well-being and dignity matters more than anything.
Thanks for that. So probably should have asked this when we were talking about social media, but I missed it. I missed the time to connect it. What responsibilities do school board members, in your eyes, have in terms of communication with staff and parents and the community at large? So this is any type of communication this time.
It really, really depends what the information is. If something's going to, to keep the kids safe, from someone that families need to know, definitely get that information out in every form we can, because that's the ultimate thing. But also, if it's the decision on something that we have to keep internal, there are certain things you're going to keep internal, because you work for your company. I work for an organization too. There's certain things that we know we cannot put out to the public. That's just bottom line. But when it comes to the safety and the well-being of teachers, students, staff, so forth and so on, and also it comes where we're trying to figure out how we can engage better in certain things. Yeah, let's get that information out, because we want people to be able to make decisions. So other than that, yes, just do the work, get the information out that's necessary, and keep moving.
What if the only way that someone communicates or receives communication is social media? I'm just gonna stab you on this one.
If you are only engaging in social media to be able to get your information, then I think you're doing yourself a disservice. I think you need to really engage and really take the time to, if you can get it in person or get somebody on the phone, or if you can have someone like myself who's in my zone to come talk to, and I can get the information to you, I will. That's the way I look at it. But if you're using social media solely to get anything that you want to know about the district and what's going on, guess what? Let's do a little bit better job of engaging and finding out a way to do that, right? And I want to be able to engage with you too, not just through social media, because I think sometimes it can be swayed to have a certain tenor, and I don't want that to happen. I want you to get the information from the source, from shameless plug, from us in the best way you can. And hopefully that's through straight from the horse's mouth, not just from someone secondhand information.
Great. Is there anything that we didn't cover today that you want to bring up or just introduce to our readers?
Sure. I think the main thing I think people want people to understand is this. There's three things that I really, really feel strongly about when I'm running for this. And one is we got to definitely continue to prioritize and develop the support of our teachers to have welcoming and equitable classrooms. That's something we definitely got to do. And we got to do that through DEI. The second thing I want people to understand too is that we got to continue to promote academic success for all students that is targeted and designed to give them control of their learning. And finally, I want students to be able to be resilient, overcome barriers, because they need to be able to have self-care and self-awareness when they're trying to face day-to-day life. Because I think ultimately progress looks like this. It has to have student involvement. It has to be socially relevant. It has to be safe. And most of all, it has to be inclusive for all people that want to engage. So those are the things I want people to understand. That is what I'm about, is trying to get student voice, student-led, student-centered, as well as supporting our teachers and also supporting the community to get the right information to be able to have great education for their students.
Just one last thing. Is there anything you'd like to say about the difference between you and your opponent in this race?
I only know some peripheral information about my opponent. I really have not really done any digging, and let's be really honest, I've never done any digging. I wish my opponent luck just like anyone else, because this is a lot of work, and it takes a special person to be able to want to engage, and like you said, have be tough skinned to be able to do this. And the thing I would say is that regardless if we ever get to speak in the same room, just good luck. Understand this is a lot of work, and if you really are engaged in this social dialogue and really want to help out, come on, jump on in with 2 feet. We welcome it. We want to see it because we want change as well when it comes from a diversity lens. So I don't think I would tell my opponent, and good luck. I worry about my campaign. I fight hard for the teachers and students that I work with every day. And I just can't wait for students to be back in school April 12th, so we can definitely figure out what we need to do in our next steps. That's the main thing I'm worried about.
Well, thanks so much for being with us. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Oh, no, thank you guys. Appreciate you being able to talk to me. Hopefully I gave you the best information I could. I'm just trying to be as honest and as positive as I can about this and just have fun. And I'm looking forward to hopefully serving on the board and just, being a part of the community and help serving where I need to.
Marcus, thank you for spending this time with us, and thank you for putting yourself out there into the public space for the greater good. It means a lot.
No worries, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for letting me be here.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye, guys.